Ramo Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare. Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Om Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivrajakacharya Tattvakarta Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada ki jai, Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai, Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan ki jai, Shri Vrindavan Dham ki Mayapur Navadvip Dham ki Purushottam Kshetra Jagannath Puri Dham ki Yamuna Mai ki Ganga Mai ki Tulsi Devi Bhakti Devi ki Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki Gaura Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Gaur. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradhari Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Raja Janaranana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Avanachari Yamuna Tira Avanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Kunja Bihari Prabhupada ki Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Okay, we're going to read from 6th Canto, Chapter 16. We're on text 52 today. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Jnana-timirandasya Gnanjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyateva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Text 52 Loke Vitatam Atmanam Lokam Chatmani Santanatam Ubhayam Jamaya Vyaptam Mayi Chaivo Bhayam Kritam Loke Vitatatam Atmanam Lokam Chatmani Santatam Ubhayam Jamaya Vyaptam Mayi Chaivo Bhayam Kritam Loke Vitatam Atmanam Lokam Chatmani Santatam Ubhayam Jamaya Vyaptam Mayi Jaivo Bhayam Kritam Loke Vitatam Atmanam Lokam Chatmani Santatam Ubhayam Jamaya Vyaptam Mayi Jaivo Bhayam Kritam Loke Vitatam Atmanam Lokam Chatmani Santatam Ubhayam Jamaya Vyaptam Mayi Jaivo Bhayam Kritam Loke. In this material world, Vitatam expanded in the spirit of material enjoyment. Atmanam, the living entity. lokam, the material world, cha, also, atmani, in the living entity, santatam, spread, ubhayam, both, the material world of material elements and the living entity, cha, and maya, by me, vyaptam, pervaded, mayi, in me, cha, also, eva, indeed, ubhayam, both of them, kritam, created. Translation. In this world of matter, which the conditioned soul accepts as consisting of enjoyable resources, the conditioned soul expands, thinking that he is the enjoyer of the material world. Similarly, the material world expands in the living entity as a source of enjoyment. In this way, they both expand, but because they are my energies, they are both pervaded by me. As the Supreme Lord, I am the cause of these effects, and one should know that both of them rest in me. Purport. The Mayavad philosophy sees everything as being equal in quality with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or the Supreme Brahman, and therefore sees everything as worshipable. This dangerous theory of the Mayavad school has turned people in general toward atheism. On the strength of this theory, one thinks that he is God, but this is not a fact. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Maya tatam idam sarvam jagad anyakta murtina. The fact is that the entire cosmic manifestation is an expansion of the Supreme Lord's energies, which are manifested in the physical elements and the living entities. The living entities wrongly consider the physical elements to be resources meant for their enjoyment, and they think themselves to be the enjoyers. However, neither of them is independent. They are both energies of the Lord. The original cause for the material energy and spiritual energy is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. However, although the expansions of the Lord's energies is the original cause, one should not think that the Lord himself has expanded in different ways. To condemn the theories of the Mayavadis, the Lord clearly says in Bhagavad Gita, Matstani sarvabhutani nachaham tashva avashtitaha. All beings are in me, but I am not in them. Everything rests upon him, and everything is but an expansion of his energies. But this does not mean that everything is as worshipable as the Lord himself. The material expansion is temporary, but the Lord is not temporary. The living entities are parts of the Lord, but they are not the Lord himself. The living entities in this material world are not inconceivable, but the Lord is. The theory that the Lord's energies, being expansions of the Lord, are as good. The theory that the Lord's energies, being expansions of the Lord, are as good as the Lord, is mistaken. When I first read this verse, I just had this image of this like spirit soul. I don't know. I just got this image of a spirit soul in like the form of like a human, like made of light, who is somehow in this really dark material world, and in a little tiny soul, and then the little soul like kind of expands in size in this dark material place. And as the soul expands, like the darkness kind of also gets inside the spirit soul, and then the soul just becomes entangled in this dark matter. That's not really what's being said here, but that's what came in my mind. Here it's just being said that the spirit of enjoyment expands when the living entity comes in contact with the material world. His spirit of enjoyment expands, and then the matter expands in him as a source of enjoyment. So it's kind of like a reciprocal thing, and one becomes more and more involved with the material energy. So Prabhupada uses this verse to comment about the Mayavad philosophy and how it is kind of at odds with the philosophy we find in the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam. He even says that, he says this dangerous theory of the Mayavad school, and we hear a lot of kind of bashing of the Mayavad philosophy throughout Prabhupada's writings and throughout Vedic literatures in general. We hear kind of, it's not a good thing. I remember the first time the first spiritual book that I read, other than the Bible, was this pretty famous book called Be Here Now. It's a very popular book, and it's very much in line with the Mayavad school of thought that everything is one, everything is equal in all respects, everything is worshipable. There's no variety, or ultimately there's no variety or differentiation. This kind of idea is there in this book, Be Here Now, which ultimately leads to the idea that we are all God, everybody's God, and that kind of thing. And because I didn't read anything else other than the Bible, I mean, I thought it was kind of cool, but I wasn't thinking like it's a dangerous thing, like, believing like this, that, oh, it's dangerous. Later we hear, from different, I think in the Puranas it said that if one submissively hears Mayavad philosophy, like from a Mayavad commentary or something like that he's doomed. That it's better to be locked in a cage with a tiger with no outlet, or in a pit of poisonous snakes or something, than to hear submissively Mayavad philosophy. So, I mean, when I read, so then the next book I read after that was The Science of Self-Realization, after this Be Here Now book. So when I read The Science of Self-Realization, I thought, oh, this makes more sense. And I just thought the Be Here Now book just didn't make sense anymore. That was like the level of progress I made regarding understanding Mayavad philosophy. And then only until I met devotees and read Prabhupada's books more thoroughly did I understand, like, wow, Mayavad philosophy is actually quite dangerous. Not just, in one sense, it doesn't make sense, because they have a very difficult time explaining where variety and differentiation comes from. Like, why is it here? Like, how does it come about? Because you can ask them very simple questions, like, can something which has no variety or differentiation produce something which has variety and differentiation? Can something which is impersonal produce something which is personal? Just by asking these simple questions, the philosophy in itself is kind of defeated, because we don't see this in practice. We don't see something coming from nothing or things like that. Or you could just defeat them on a practical level. You just say, the very famous argument. If somebody says everything is all one, then you just say, oh, great, everything's all one. Then can you give me your wallet? Because there's no difference. It's all the same. So I'll take your wallet. Thank you. And then they have to be okay with that if they're really accepting that philosophy. It is a pretty dangerous philosophy, because it does lead people to atheism. Ultimately, it leads people away from God, or even worse, offending God, thinking that they themselves are God. And then it ultimately just kind of it bewilders people, makes people very confused about spiritual life, and then it kind of makes it difficult to establish a relationship with God if you think that you are God or that everyone is God. It's just makes it difficult to have loving relationships with that ideology. So there are 3 pastimes that kind of relate with Mayavad philosophy that I found. One of them, well, 2 of them have to deal with demons that Krishna kills. All the demons represent something. So 2 of the demons have something to do with representing like Mayavad philosophy. The first demon is Trinavarta. So Trinavarta, he represents like kind of false arguments, bad arguments that the Mayavadis use, or logicians or Buddhists use. This is what Trinavarta represents. So after Krishna killed Putana and Sakata, Kamsa sent his friend Trinavarta to go try to kill Krishna because the previous 2 of his friends failed. So Trinavarta was ready for the task. When he came to Vrindavan, he saw that he saw Mother Yashoda there, kind of tossing Krishna up in the air like a mother would do to her child, maybe as like a kind of a play fun thing. Tossing him up in the air and then catching him, tossing him up in the air and then catching him. So then Trinavarta, he was seeing this and he kind of got an idea. He's like, oh, okay, well, maybe here's how I think I'm going to kill Krishna. I'm going to take the form of a whirlwind and then pick up Mother Yashoda and Krishna, take them really high in the sky, and then crash them down, and then they'll die. This is what Trinavarta was thinking. Of course, Krishna, being omniscient, he knew what Trinavarta was thinking. Oh, yeah, sorry. Oh, sorry, yeah. Thanks. So because Krishna was omniscient, he knew what Trinavarta was thinking. So he was particularly worried about Trinavarta messing with his mother, because Trinavarta was going to take the mother and Krishna up and kill them both. And Krishna wasn't liking the, hey, you're messing with my mother part. You can mess with me, that's okay, but kind of leave my mother out of it. So then while Krishna was being thrown up in the air by his mother, he started becoming heavier. Like he used his mystical powers to make himself heavier. So much so that Mother Yashoda couldn't throw him up in the air anymore. So then Mother Yashoda just put Krishna on her lap. But he got so heavy that even putting Krishna on her lap, that was too heavy for her. So she had to put him down on the ground. And then she was like, geez, no one can bear this weight. Krishna is just so heavy, no one can bear this weight. And it was true, because Krishna assumed the weight of the entire universe or all of cosmic creation or something, super, super heavy. So then there was Krishna on the ground. But Mother Yashoda, she realized that something was wrong here. This is not usual that my son weighs so much. So she decided to pray to Lord Narayan she just felt something bad was going to happen. So she prayed to Lord Narayan, please protect my son. And then she went off to go find some brahmanas to chant some mantras to protect Krishna. So when Mother Yashoda went away, that's when Trinavarta decided to swoop in and try to steal Krishna. So when Trinavarta, took the form of a whirlwind, everything became dark. There's really, really strong winds everywhere, throwing all kinds of sticks and leaves and hailstones, and nobody could even be outside because it was so intense with all the stuff flying everywhere. So Trinavarta came in, swooped up Krishna, and then started lifting him up higher and higher in the air. And then when Mother Yashoda came back and didn't find Krishna, she just kind of, transcendentally just freaked out. Oh, where did Krishna go? And then she was kind of groping in the air like somebody who's drowning. might do, like looking for like a buoy or a life vest or something. She was just groping in there, and then she couldn't take it, and then she fainted. So then all the Vrajavasis were, really worried. They started coming and wondering, oh, what's going on, and then so that's what's happening kind of on the earth. But then while Krishna's going up in the air, he was thinking, many times my mom throws me up in the air, but she only throws me up a little bit. I actually want to play in the sky. So this was like kind of a fun thing for Krishna to be taken up so high in the sky. And simultaneously, while he was being raised up in the air like that, he was accomplishing other purposes too. He was fulfilling the desires of the celestial damsels who wanted to get a closer look at Krishna, because now he's going higher in the sky, so the celestial damsels get a better look because he's closer. And then also, because Trinavarta took the form of a whirlwind, the winds were blowing everywhere, so they were also blowing the fragrance from Krishna's body to all the heavenly planets. So everybody in the heavenly planets was like totally blissed out by, smelling the body fragrance from Krishna. So anyway, so then while all this was going on up in the sky, Mother Yashoda down on earth regained her consciousness. Then she was just in great sorrow and lamentation, and then all her friends were coming. Rohini was there, and Rohini was trying to console Mother Yashoda, saying, it's hard to, just trying to console her. And then Mother Yashoda was like, well, since you're preventing me from dying, then what should I do now that my child is gone? Like what? I don't know what I can do. So Krishna, kind of sensing like the strife that the Vrajavasis were feeling, that he was not there, he decided, all right, I'm going to end this pastime quickly. So then he decided to grab hold of Trinavarta's neck, and then he gradually made himself heavier and heavier again. So as Trinavarta was going up, Krishna was making himself heavier and heavier, and then at one point Trinavarta couldn't go higher anymore, and then he started coming down, and then Krishna started making himself the weight of like an iron mountain, and then he really started bringing Trinavarta down, kind of like a meteor falling to the earth. But Krishna didn't want to just kill him that way, just kind of smashing him to the earth. He thought, all right, I'm also going to strangle him too. So because he took hold of his neck. And so while he was taking hold of his neck, he strangled him so much so that his eyes popped out of his socket. And then he crashed him to the ground, and then that was the end of Trinavarta. But when all the Vrajavasis saw this made a huge noise, and they were, what the heck is going on here? They saw Krishna playing on the dead body of Trinavarta. So everyone was like kind of timidly approaching this thing and wondering what was going on. And then, they saw Krishna was playing on Trinavarta's dead body. So then Mother Yashoda came and picked him up, and then she said, oh, Krishna, oh, darling, you caused so much trouble for your mother. And, they went on that way. Nanda Maharaj and the other older Gopas, they said that, Lord Narayan protected Krishna. Like, this was their understanding, was that Narayan was protecting Krishna throughout this whole ordeal. And that they must have performed many austerities and pious activities and really strictly worshipped the Lord to be able for their child to be saved. So they thought this was the cause for Krishna's being saved. So that's one story. So the idea is that if you hear this story, or this pastime, then one of the benedictions that you get from hearing it is that Krishna will kind of will help your heart become free from these bad, false arguments from Mayavadis. And, whatever, if that contaminates your heart, these kind of arguments and this bad logic and things, then Krishna will remove that. So that's one of the good things about hearing these pastimes. A second pastime also has to do with another demon that Krishna killed. This was Pralambasura. So Pralamba, he's another demon. He also represents covered Buddhism, or Mayavad. He basically represents the Mayavad philosophy again. And so this pastime is a little later in Krishna's Leela, when Krishna's a little older and he's tending the cows, and when he's playing with his cowherd boyfriends. So when Krishna tends the cows with his friends, it's generally they have a pretty good time. When they're tending cows, they play a lot. They play games, they play ball, they really like to sing together, call out the names of their cows. They like to tell riddles to each other, and they just have a really good time doing all kinds of they like to imitate the animals. And so much fun is there. They like to dance together. That's an interesting pastime that they have when they're out herding the cows. So one time, Krishna and Balaram, they were dancing, and the cowherd boys, they sing, they keep rhythm by clapping their hands or hitting their horns or their sticks together, and they make kind of like a beat and rhythm and music. And then Krishna and Balaram, they start dancing, and they're really good at dancing, and they're so good at dancing that the other cowherd boys are just, oh my God, you guys are so amazing, and they just feel like they want to give Krishna and Balaram something. So they start giving Krishna and Balaram all their jewelry and everything, and just an admiration, like, wow, you're amazing, here, have this. But then Krishna said, no, I don't. The only payment that I want for my dancing is that you accept my challenge to wrestle. So then Krishna and Balaram and the cowherd boys, cowherd boys can't refuse that challenge to wrestle Krishna and Balaram. So then they all get into like this big wrestling match. And then when Krishna and Balaram and the cowherd boys wrestle, it's pretty serious. Like they really get into it. It's not just like play wrestling like we might do, where you're not really trying to hurt the other person, and it's just kind of playing. But these cowherd boys are really strong. Krishna and Balaram and the cowherd boys are very strong, and they actually try to punch. They slap their arms and get their fighting stance, and when they punch, like they punch really hard. They say they punch with like the force of a universe on the chests, and they don't hold back. It's like full out fighting, and it's described that Krishna accepts these punches like offerings of flowers. Although they are very, very intense punches, Krishna accepts them as loving dealings. Similar to how Krishna accepts the arrows that are fired by Bhishma on the Battle of Kurukshetra. He accepts these arrows as like offerings of flowers. And the cowherd boys, they'll be swinging, we're playing on swings. So Krishna and Balaram might be on one swing, like 4 other cowherd boys on another swing, 6 other cowherd boys swinging on another swing, and then Krishna and Balaram, they'll jump off the swing and they'll start throwing amalaki fruits at the other cowherd boys who are swinging, and then this is kind of like a challenge, and then all of a sudden an all-out food fight starts. And anyway, like this, so many pastimes were going on in the forest. And it was during all of these playful pastimes of Krishna and his cowherd boyfriends that Trinavarta decided to come. So, or not Trinavarta, sorry, Pralambasura. Yeah. So Kamsa, he was feeling a little like, while all this playing is going on, Kamsa was feeling he was lamenting quite a bit because so many of his friends were being killed by Krishna. So many demons were being killed, and Kamsa was not really sure what to do. So one of his friends, Pralambasura, tried to console Kamsa, saying, "Oh, don't worry, Kamsa. If you just give me the opportunity, I will solve all of your problems. Just order me, and I'll go kill Krishna." And Kamsa he just laughed, because Pralambasura wasn't that powerful of a demon. He just wasn't that strong, especially compared to other demons that Kamsa sent. So Kamsa knew that Pralambasura wasn't going to be able to do anything to Krishna. So he just laughed. He said, "All right, go ahead. If you want to go in the blazing fire, by all means, do as you wish." But, but he really wasn't thinking that Pralambasura was going to kill Krishna. So Pralambasura, he kind of felt insulted a little, like, "What do you mean I'm not up to the task?" So then he was even more determined to try to kill Krishna, maybe than, he just had a really strong determination to prove himself. So when Pralambasura went to Vrindavan to try to go kill Krishna, he overheard some, I guess, older gopis talk about their son, kind of developing like a sickness, and how this older gopi's son won't be able to go play with Krishna and the cowherd boys today because he's feeling sick. So this cowherd boy who was sick, his name was Bhadra. And so Pralambasura, he thought, okay, maybe I could just kind of disguise myself as this Bhadra, and that way I'll be able to get in close with Krishna, so that I'll be able to kill him eventually. So he stole all the clothes from Bhadra and dressed himself and assumed the form of Bhadra and went to go play with Krishna and the cowherd boys. So he was pretty good. He's pretty good at disguising himself. Everybody was more or less convinced that yes, this person is Bhadra, and then they accepted him. So they played with them, and it was okay. But everybody except Krishna. Krishna, being omniscient, he knew that Bhadra was actually Pralambasura, who came to try to kill him. So Krishna, when he saw Bhadra, he's like, "Oh, Bhadra, where have you been? You're missing out on all the fun." Anyway, never mind. I got a game. I got a game we can play. So then they start playing this game called Harina. It's a game. Maybe we can try playing it here sometime. It's a game where it's like a racing game. So the idea is that everybody divides into two teams, and then each team has like an opponent from the opposite team that they're racing against. So then the idea is that you have a starting line and a finish line, and then everybody tries to race to the end. Then if you beat your opponent on the other side, then that opponent has to carry you back to the start line on their shoulders. So that's kind of like what you get for winning, is that you get to ride on the shoulders of the person who lost. And it's not just a running game; you have to run like deer. That's why it's called arena, because I think arena is like a deer. So anyway, so so then they divided up. Krishna divided the team. Said, "All right, Bhadra, you be with me. You're gonna be on my team, and then we'll be against Balaram and Sridham." And then they divided up the teams like that. So kind of Krishna was sparring against Sridham, and then Krishna said that, "Oh, I think with Bhadra, I think Balaram would be a perfect sparring partner for you. So you can race against Balaram." So then they did the race, and then it turns out that Balaram beat Bhadra, and Sridham and Krishna beat Sridham. So Sridham had to carry Krishna, and Balaram had to carry, and Pralambasura had to carry Balaram. So then, as they started going back to carrying the gopas back to the start line, Pralambasura, he said, "Oh, okay, this is my opportunity. Maybe I can go kidnap them, to make my move." So he went past the start line and took Balaram even further away from the rest of the gopas. And then Balaram, he was, "What's going on here?" And he made himself a little heavier to kind of slow down who he thought was Bhadra, to like say, "What are you doing? The start line's over there." But then Bhadra kind of started assuming his form as a demon, and he started getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and then Balaram started going higher and higher and higher in the sky. And Balaram was at first a little, he didn't know what to do. Even though he was the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he was so much absorbed in playing like a cowherd boy, in the mood of playing, that like his omniscience was covered, and he just didn't know what to do or what was going on. So then eventually Krishna came on the scene, and Krishna just kind of looked at Balaram like, what's going on? This is not the time to play like a human. You're God. You can take care of this. So then kind of Balaram came to his senses, and then he said, all right. And then he decided to, end it pretty quickly. He just kind of gave Pralambasura one good whack on the head, one good punch. It's described all the, and then that was it. His head cracked open and he died. That was it. So then the cowherd boys were, Jai Balaram, like glorifying, well done, friend, well done. And then therefore they gave him the name Baladev, God of Power, because he was able to just, I guess, kill this demon with just one punch. And then, then there's blood everywhere and a dead body. The Gopas were just like, all right, this is a little disgusting. Let's go. Let's leave. And then they all just left. So that's another pastime. So hearing this pastime, the benediction for this one is that by hearing this pastime, we can develop the strength to be able to identify and root out the Mayavad. We'll be able to identify like the Mayavad ideology when it comes up, and we'll be able to root it out when it comes in our ranks, especially under false pretense. So if that kind of infiltrates our community, then we can read this story and hear this pastime, and that'll help us to identify it and root it out. So then the third final pastime, dealing with Mayavad philosophy that I came across. Maybe there's others, but the third one is having to do with Lord Chaitanya and his pastimes as, his childhood pastimes as Nimai. So Nimai's mother, Sachi, she was feeding Nimai some sweet rice, some nice rice, and other, nice things to eat. But then Nimai, he started, instead of eating the rice and the sweets, he just decided, I'm gonna eat. He started eating the dirt around what Sachi prepared. And then when Mother Sachi saw that Krishna was eating all this dirt instead of the rice and the sweets, she said, "What are you doing, son? Why are you doing this?" And then, Nimai kind of described that he started crying crocodile tears. He's like very kind of, "Why are you angry at me, Mother? I'm you feed me. I'm eating dirt every day. Dirt. All the things that you feed me are just transformations of dirt. In fact, this body, this itself is just a transformation of dirt. So what's wrong that I'm eating dirt?" And then Mother Sachi knew this was Mayavad philosophy, so she tried to like convince Nimai that no, this is dirt. If you eat dirt, you'll get sick. But if you eat grains, which are after the dirt has been transformed into grains, then it will nourish the body, make you healthy. Similarly, if you shape earth in the form of a clay pot, it's very good for carrying water. Whereas if you try to carry water with just raw dirt, it's going to be a terrible vessel for carrying water. So there's a difference. It's not all the same. And then Nimai was like, "Oh, why didn't you tell this to me earlier? This makes so much sense." Okay, so now in the future, and when I'm hungry, I'm not gonna eat dirt. I'm gonna have your breast milk. And then that was the kind of the conclusion. So this is... I was also trying to think about how this Mayavad philosophy could like sprout up in somebody. Like, how do people like kind of become attracted to this idea of Mayavad? Why do people take it up? Because of atheism? Well, we read here in the purport that this dangerous theory of Mayavad school has turned people in general toward atheism. I don't know if it's like a chicken or egg thing, because here it says that if you accept this Mayavad school of thought, it'll lead you to atheism. But maybe it could be true that people are atheists, and then that leads them to Mayavad. That's why they're attracted to it, because they're generally like atheists. You have another idea? Because they have a bad experience having a body and a form and relationships and stuff.
Yes.
Oh man.
Yes.
I don't.
So they always.
I can't be that.
Yeah.
I can't be anything like that.
So they are scared of retaining the personality. So they think that Prabhupada write that they compare the human body as a bubble of the ocean that merge in the ocean after death.
Yeah, I do get that analogy. Yeah, so that could be maybe another reason is that they were like they had a bad experience with relationships and forms and being a person and having a form that they think, oh well, I can't be this, can't be the way things are eternally forever. That I have a form and that I'm an individual and things like that. So they think it's better to not have a form, not be an individual, and just yeah. So that's one. Okay, so that's maybe another explanation. Another possible.
Point. Mayavadis don't think that they are atheists because, in their viewpoint, everything is divine. Everything is God. I'm also God. But the atheism aspect is that because of that sense of oneness, they deny the individual existence of Krishna. So they don't have to really serve or worship Krishna. Everything is worshipable, including myself. And according to, I guess, the Vaishnava Tantra, that is atheism, because it doesn't mean that there is individual existence for God. I think it's somewhere in the purport Prabhupada mentioned.
Yeah, but that's nice explanation. Yeah, I was wondering if because we often like talk down to Mayavadis, and I was wondering like do they consider themselves Mayavadis, or is that just like what we call like a name that we give them as like a derogatory name? Yeah, so they'd probably be cool being called Mayavadis, Yeah, okay, we're Mayavad. Yeah. But we'd be okay. Like we wouldn't be offended if we were called that. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Yeah. So those are the nice points. One other point that I read about why people have a tendency to take up Mayavad philosophy and Mayavad understanding is because they've committed an offense against the holy name. So they equate chanting the holy name with some pious activity. It doesn't matter the amount, because they somehow equate the two, like chanting Hare Krishna is like a pious activity. Of course, this is an offense. It's like trying to compare coal with gold or something. And the Chaitanya Charitamrita says that persons who do this, they're atheists and they're subject to being punished by Yamaraj. And that, if you have this conception, it'll take root in the mind and it'll poison your mind, and then it'll make you eventually turn toward Mayavad philosophy if you think that chanting is the same as just, like a pious activity or something. So it's another way. Anyway, that's kind of all I had for today. Is there anything else anybody would like to contribute to this discussion? Or yes, Krishnanam.
Yes,
They're envious of Krishna.
James, yeah. Otherwise, they don't want to suffer anymore.
Right, I think
But
that's what was. I think Nishtana Pran may have made that point too.
yeah,
So they don't have to serve Krishna. Oh,
yeah.
this Mayavad philosophy is very convenient because we're all God and I don't have to serve Krishna anymore. It's all the same. We're all equally worshipable. It's too inconvenient to worship Krishna or whatever. So I'll accept this. Yeah. So envy, I guess, is the root cause for a lot of problems that we have. Okay. Anything else?
There was some reason why the Pralambasura took Balram and not Krishna. I forgot that reason.
I think I remember saying that, hearing that all the demons that Balaram killed, that's like, each demon represents an anartha, and then all the demons that Balaram killed represents the anarthas that that we have the strength to deal with, like Pralambasura and which other one did Balaram kill? Dhenukasura, Pralambasura. Dhenukasura, Pralambasura, yeah. So like these two, these demons represent something. One is like the bad lot. Pralambasura represents Mayavad, the covered Buddhism or Mayavad, and then Dhenukasura represents some ass-like mentality. Yeah, right. So these two are the two that the spiritual master, Balaram represents a spiritual master, or is a spiritual master also. So these two demons, they're the ones that the spiritual master can help you remove. Whereas all the other anarthas and all the other demons, Krishna himself has to remove those from your heart. We can't really do much other than just call out to Krishna and try to do devotional service to Krishna. But it's Krishna is the one that's removing those anarthas. Whereas these other two anarthas that are represented by Pralambasura and Dhenukasura, they're anarthas that that we have the strength through the spiritual master, that we have the strength to actually do something about. It's within our power to do something about it. I think I've heard like that. Okay. Anything else? Ravi, Prabhu?
So if they consider themselves to be God, then I I also see the Mayavads also doing lot of social service. So I don't understand, if they think themselves to be God, why do they have to serve others? Or
Well, there's probably different reasons for that. But a lot of times they just take certain things as means to a different end. Like, for example, they'll do things. They might do things like humanitarian work, or they might even worship the deities, or they might do spiritual practices. But it's like they might have deities forms, but I think the idea is that they're doing these things with the purpose of eventually being able to give them up once they kind of become more realized or something. That was the other point, is that they think that everybody's God. So if you're doing humanitarian work, serving man, you're serving God. You're doing great spiritual practice. Of course, with the ultimate end of trying to come to a level of merging in with everything and having no individual existence, and so it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So it's hard to justify why they do things, but maybe that's how they could do it. That's the other thing, yeah. Right, they got to do something. They're not getting a taste from what their spiritual practice. So at least there's some taste in humanitarian work. So all right, I'll do that. Yeah, Prabhupada said like that too. So three potential reasons why they could do these things, why they do that. Okay, anything else? Okay, we'll end here. Thank you very much, Srila Prabhupada Ki.